Opening yourself up is hard. It takes a lot of courage to show your true self to the world. There are so many expectations set on us that we often feel guilty when doing something that should feel nothing but right. As we have the sensation of being judged, we create images of ourselves that are simply fake. And in the pursuit of pleasing everyone around us, we lose our authenticity. Now, I'm not saying that putting on makeup is being fake, but I do have the feeling that we often fall into the rabbit hole of trying to keep up with the Kardashians of this world instead of just being ourselves. And as corny as that sounds, you cannot live a fulfilling life as someone else. There are two main types of inauthenticity in my view. Some people behave in a way that's completely unnatural to them. They create an image that is very different to their inner self, often by becoming overly eccentric or quite the opposite, hiding their quirks to become more normal. They do things just to impress others and often end up feeling bad about themselves. Some, on the other hand, don't fake anything specifically, they just only show a very carefully selected part to the world. They retouch their image profoundly and make sure that no freckles or spots make their way to the public. They can't stand the thought of their imperfections being uncovered. And for eons, I was guilty of this crime. But why does this happen? Why do we struggle with being authentic so much these days? Why is it so hard for us to just show our true selves to the world? To answer these questions, we first must define what authenticity actually means. It turns out the internet not only can't quite agree on this matter, it's also full of cliches. I mean, I'm actually sorry for all those wise people whose quotes have been so over and misused by everyone. But in all this chaos, to me, authenticity is actually quite simple. Being true to your own personality and values, regardless of the pressure to act otherwise. Essentially, it's just doing what feels right without the fear of being judged. But this can and should be elucidated upon. When I was doing the research for this video, I stumbled upon a great quote by Dr. Romani. I am paraphrasing. Authentic people don't let their strengths escalate them into grandiosity and their weaknesses drag them into a pit of despair. But hey, isn't authenticity actually being able to own your weaknesses and admit if they are indeed dragging you into a pit of despair? That's what I think. And that is exactly why I'd add just one word to this quote: social. This, in my opinion, sums the topic up phenomenally, because authenticity means being yourself, and to do that, you must be, in a way, immune to the judgment of others. You must understand that you're never going to please everyone. Being yourself is being vulnerable, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do these days. And that brings us beautifully to the reason why so many of us struggle with inauthenticity these days: social media. Social media has a tumultuous impact on our lives, so much so that there are literally documentaries on Netflix talking about the negative impacts that apps like Facebook or Instagram have on our well-being. We're constantly being fed images of perfection, perfect people, perfect products, perfect places, perfect biceps, and I've already discussed the negative consequences of that in a previous video, but the essence is simple. Social media gives us the opportunity and incentive to curate our persona and make it better than it actually is. Okay, let's sit down and get real for a little. This type of behavior is often explained by insecurity, and in a myriad of cases that is true, but if I'm being authentic, I've never felt particularly insecure. Now, I'm not saying this just to defend myself, but I just believe that there might be some people out there that have the same problem that I did. Or do, actually. To me, the whole thing was not about becoming someone who I wasn't. It was about becoming a perfect person of who I was. And because perfection is simply unattainable, I faked it with how I presented myself. My own ego and expectations towards myself were so ridiculously high that I just couldn't bear my imperfections, and ergo, I didn't want anyone else to know about them. To make matters worse, I was always a very sociable person. I liked having a lot of friends, and God knows why, I thought that if they didn't know about my weaknesses, they would be more likely to like me. You know, for the longest time, I thought I did not care about what people think of me, but that was false. I did, because what they thought of me often reflected what I thought of myself. Now, just because I might want to touch upon this in a future video, I have always been quite independent and made my own decisions. I know this might sound a little bit counterintuitive after hearing what you just heard, but let me just quickly give you an example. I've never felt the pressure to drink alcohol, even though everyone around me did. But that is because abstaining was something deeply rooted into my belief system. I truly thought that abstaining, that not drinking was the right thing for me. But owning my imperfections, that's not the same case. I've never accepted my imperfections as something okay, as something that's acceptable. I cared about what people thought about my weaknesses because I didn't think they were something acceptable. That just wasn't a part of my personality at the time. Perfectionism was killing my authenticity. So, you might ask, what changed, if anything? Well, nothing. I'm still a narcissistic perfectionist. That's it. End of video. See you in the next one. In all seriousness though, this is what happened. I encountered a series of failures, I got called out a couple times, I realized how non-congruent I often was, and I decided to stop. Let's take a look back and see how I managed to become a little bit more authentic in just 2 simple steps. Step number 1, getting slapped in the face. This is one you cannot exactly control, it just has to happen. You need something or someone to come into your life and show you that what you're doing is wrong. You cannot fix what you don't know is broken, and that is exactly this step, understanding that inauthenticity and being fake is hurting you. In my case, it was failure. When I didn't win an English competition twice in a row just by a thread, it was excruciatingly frustrating. But after a few days of anguish and showering in my clothes, I realized that there simply is no such thing as perfection. There is no such thing as 100%. That might seem stupid, but that competition was something very, very important to me. And the experience of having failed at something so significant might just have been the most important thing that happened to me at the time. That was my slap in the face. Having friends who are honest with you is also invaluable. Don't be afraid to ask them what is it that they don't like about you. What they tell you might be a huge reality check. If you understand their intentions and take their criticism in the right way, this will be life-changing. Were it not for a few friends who were honest with me when I asked them about my flaws, I would not be the person that I am today. Step number 2. Learn how to not give a f***. Once you understand what is wrong with you, there is a solution. Stop caring. That is, however, most definitely easier said than done. To me, it was a confrontation with reality. I just realized how little many things matter in the bigger picture. I understood that most of our actions and decisions are quite insignificant. That most people really have more important things to worry about than our imperfections. And if they don't, I'm just sorry for them. They really must have boring lives. This gave me the courage to take the stick out of my butt and be a little bit less uptight and perfect chasing. There is a little asterisk though. Whilst it is good to be indifferent to the opinion of the masses, you should still listen to those that you care about, to those close to you. This step does not mean leaving everyone and everything behind and doing whatever the hell you please. It means becoming a little bit more flexible and immune to that what is insignificant. Combined with always doing your best, not caring is possibly one of the most liberating things one can do. Once you know that you're giving it your all, you're never going to be hard on yourself, because even if something goes wrong, you'll know that you couldn't have done anything more. All that being said, authenticity does not mean just getting on with your flaws and never working on them. It's not like you're just supposed to not care about anything or anyone and continue hurting people because you're just being yourself. Authenticity is about just trying your best to become a good person, understanding that you're probably never going to reach the ideal, and being somewhat indifferent to what most think about you. You will fail. You're not perfect, and as long as you're trying your best, that is okay. Inauthenticity has become something so deeply rooted into our daily lives that it's almost become a part of our identity. We wear masks all the time, and sometimes we fail to recognize when they're on. It's actually quite normal to be doing something untrue to yourself without realizing it these days. That is why it's dangerous, and that is exactly why I'm trying to get rid of it myself. Am I successful? No, not yet. I don't think so. But hey, at least I'm trying, right?